Speaking at the funeral of Olorato Mongale in Bloemfontein at the City Hall in the Free State, the Deputy Minister of Police, Polly Bushielo, says there are 20 cases linked to Philangenkosi Makhanya and Bongani Mtimkulu with the same modus operandi of targeting women at malls. Bushielo says Makhanya and his associates lured women under the pretense of false dates and then robbed them in what police have dubbed a romance dating scam. She says cases have been opened in Bloemfontein, Potchefstroom, Mbombela, Leboa-Kgomo and Midrand. Bushielo says forensics are still analyzing blood samples found on the VW Polo vehicle that is linked to the murder of Olorato Mongale. Our reporter Ismail Modiba joins us now live from Bloemfontein. Good afternoon to you. So just take us through what we have seen this afternoon in the funeral service of the late Olorato and where we are in terms of proceedings.
Well, good afternoon to Lasizwe. You are coming as towards the tail end of the funeral program of Olorato Mongale, where you have seen that from the morning, the speakers after speakers at the Bloemfontein City Hall, they eulogized about the life of Olorato. The life of Olorato, the kind of person that she was, dedicated as she was in matters of education, that her life was unfortunately cut short. But to take us more through, just to give us a perspective with regard to the connection that they have with Olorato, I've got Murendeni Musanda of Musanda Foundation, as well as Asife Dlanja, an education activist. Murendeni, you spoke over the weekend about the connection that you have with Olorato and the kind of passion that you share with regard to education. Let's speak about that and the loss that the country is facing with regard to the demise of Olorato.
And I believe that as Musanda Foundation, as an education activist, our responsibility is to travel across the country, talking to young people about the importance of education. And Olorato was someone who was representing this country very well. You'll remember that she was doing her master's with the University of Wits at Wits University, where I'm also doing my PhD. And really, when we got the story of her passing, I must say we were very touched. And for someone like me who knew about her, who knew her family, I was truly touched, because the reality of the matter is that if we don't stand up, all of us as men, to fight gender-based violence, there is no one who will stand, because it's us who have to stand together and make sure that we fight gender-based violence. But really, we are here to say to the family, we send our condolences to the Vets family and also to the family of Mongale. Olorato was an amazing young woman. Olorato was having an amazing future. Olorato was a fighter. Olorato was someone very great, someone powerful. And if you look at the life of Olorato, that's when you realize that women are truly gifted and women are very powerful, and as men we have to protect women.
Thank you very much for your time. And I guess maybe it's time to bring on Asife Dlanja, somebody that I also can call an education activist. Asife, the death of Olorato, it's a loss in the education fraternity, and you as an education activist, I guess her death leaves a void that it's unimaginable.
Absolutely. In fact, it represents the broader crisis that the country and many institutions of higher learning have been suffering. In fact, 2 years ago, the crime stats reported that about 10% of all gender-based violence were happening within institutions and around institutions of higher learning. So it tells you that there's a crisis. Olorato is but one of thousands of students who have fallen victim to gender-based violence, often at the hands of their intimate partners. So it really tells a picture of the state of higher education in the country.
And speaking about on the issue of gender-based violence, I mean, the men who were at the hall at the funeral were challenged changed to say they must stand up and denounce that they disassociate themselves with the violence. How can we ensure that we take back our rightful places and the women take their rightful places, move around as freely as everybody is supposed to be?
Look, it's about time that the conversation and the fight against gender-based violence is championed by men in the country. The reality is that unless and until we're able to mobilize men across the country to aggressively respond to the issue of gender-based violence, that all efforts will be in vain. Because if you take, for instance, the death of Olorato, as far as whatever she had to do in terms of what would be a responsibility or what would have been expected of her to keep herself safe, she had done all of that. But the reality is that she still was murdered, which tells us that the struggle needs to be championed, and the struggle lies squarely at the responsibility of the men of South Africa.
That's Asive Dlanja. I would refer to him as an education fighter. And as you can see, we are towards the end of the funeral, and earlier on when the Premier of the Free State spoke, she spoke, gave an impassioned plea about the lack of protection that the women are getting from men, even going back as far as over a year ago when Bloemfontein in particular had a high number of gender-based violence. She even read the names of the women who were murdered and attacked. Unfortunately, they were attacked and killed by their close partners, and this is the challenge. It's a national crisis, that a pandemic that South Africa is facing, as women are being attacked on a daily basis. As we are approaching towards the end of this funeral program, maybe I must just get out of shot for my colleague, just to give you a glimpse of what is happening just as the program is being rounded off. A member of the family is taking time to thank those who came here to support the Mongale family, and saying that this should not be the end of it. This should happen to all the families when the time of grief has arrived. They should be able to stand up and help them, give them the support, the necessary support that they so much need at that time.
All right, thank you for that, Ismail Mudiba, reporting live for us there out of Bloemfontein. Comprehensive reporting from the team on the ground there. And as Ismail is saying there, a crisis is what we are faced with in as far as gender-based violence is concerned. Yet another life we did not have to lose in this country.